Around 92 and 93, 1992, 1993, the early part of 94, there was an elderly man back then. I'm not too sure if he's still alive, because by then he was around 70 already. Mr. Vincent Nwaneri, who was proposing then to have a commodity exchange, to have what you call the COMEX in Nigeria. I think he was a consultant to the World Bank back then. And it sounded very strange, but it was music to my ears as a young capital market reporter. I liked the idea of a commodity exchange. It was so great in my ears then. And so we got very close. He lived somewhere off Kingsway Road, which is Alfred Rwani. And we spent quite some time together, months and months, talking about how to get commodity exchange up and running. He spoke with a few banks. He spoke with the stock exchange. They wouldn't listen to him, because everybody thought the stock market was the only thing. Spoke to a few banks, tried to raise money to set it up with the World Bank and all of that. It all ended up in nowhere and all of that. So for me, I spent the last 2 decades plus having commodity exchange in my head, and why this should even be the first exchange that Nigeria should have, or as a platform. Then I think in 2007, I had the privilege of traveling with the Nigerian Stock Exchange, one of those investment road trips to the US. And when the conference was over, the roadshow was over, I sneaked to Chicago. Actually, I planned it before I left Nigeria. Because I wanted to go to the Chicago Board Options Exchange. I want to go to the CBOE. And so I went to the CBOE, and I spent about 3 days on the pit. Actually, I wanted to see how the television coverage and the reporting of the CBOE and CBOT was all about. So, and then there was a futures and options derivatives training also there. So I went there. For the first time, I saw how, I went to the floor and see how this biggest #1 commodity exchange in the world. So that was 12 years ago. And it marks another turning point for me. And I kept looking forward to how soon will Nigeria have a commodity exchange and things like that. But it looks like when the Abuja Commodity and Securities Exchange came up in 2004 or so, 94, 98, I'm trying to. And the whole stock exchange went against it. The Nigerian Stock Exchange then didn't like the idea there's going to be a commodity exchange mixed with the securities exchange. And it all became a very big issue. And actually, they got started, what becomes the NCX today and all of that. But it's good to have private sector organizations like AFEX come up with what we have on our hands today. We need a functional commodity exchange than we need anything else as a country. If you're looking at all the companies that are into production using agro products, Nestle, Cadbury, Nigerian breweries, Guinness, flour mills, Dangote flour, Honeywell, and what have you. Without a commodity exchange, what we're missing is huge as a country. So I love this initiative. Please, let's give them a round of applause, please. This is good. And talking to and speaking to my colleagues, I think the gentleman who did the last presentation, I'll give you another round of applause. And that's for me. Because that is the training that we need. And I was sitting down there taking notes. And we need that, and my colleagues, we appreciate AFEX for doing this, because the understanding how the commodities or how commodities market work, from spot to futures and contracts and forwards and all of that, is quite huge and complex. And it's a learning curve for most of us in the room, and will still be for many other journalists who will be reporting. But the advantage that some of us may have or will have is that if you're really reporting the capital market, then you have a bit of an idea of how a commodity exchange. Some of these are not really new. There's composite index, there's this and that, volatility, and all of that. So it helps. And then with the way in which the MBS has been reporting inflation and a lot of that, the budget and all of that. So we have a lot of infographics, a lot of visualization already. So we begin to see that. But what we need will be to really understand how to translate the data into news. And because we need to do this as quickly as possible. If you remember very well, those who remember very well, Nigerian Stock Exchange started by writing reports. So there's what they call the stock market report, written, and in those days we just go there and pick it up. The first 2 pages you tear it up. News Agency of Nigeria just add a little ABCD, just kind of sub-edit it. Somebody from NAN is here. I didn't know. I take that back. But that's a very great organization. We may not know it, we may not realize it. What News Agency of Nigeria has done is amazing. What they've done is amazing. Without News Agency of Nigeria, Channels Television will not be what it is today. Anybody can quote me and record it. Channels Television will not be where it is today without News Agency of Nigeria. Because we take the whole document, and because it has news, foreign, entertainment, this, politics, so 2 pages, Boason for business, 2 pages to auto for writing sport. So technically, when Channels Television started, you can just look at NAN and you just see Channels News through it, because that was basically what we solved. So you helped a lot of news agents. NAN actually helped radio, television stations get started, and not to talk of newspapers. So that was a very great organization, and we benefited from the rich resource of personnel and contacts and all of that News Agency of Nigeria had always had. That's one organization that goes quietly in Nigeria, is never talked about, nobody mentioned them at all. It's a very great organization, NAN, and thank you for that. Before PANA and the rest, Pan-African News Agency of Nigeria, which was a sister organization to NAN and all of that. The entire stock exchange, FMDQ, are all within what AFEX want to bring out. So that goes first to what we eat, what we drink, what we use, medicine, energy, whatever. It's all about around agriculture. So agriculture is everything. Agriculture is life. So when we put a market to it, then we are where we. In fact, this market will be far much bigger than the Nigerian Stock Exchange, FMDQ, put together, because it goes to the heart of what my mom and my dad did before they died, all their life, which is about farming, agriculture. Most of us are parents, grandparents, and it goes to the very essence. In fact, agriculture is the first occupation of man. So it goes all back to the Garden of Eden. That's how far back we are going with this. But again, wealth creation through commodities exchange should become something that will be everybody's delight. I look forward to the day in which this will become part of my basket of reportorial experience and exercise. It's going to be very refreshing. I've spent most of my youthful years chasing me in one area until I think he relocated back to the US, and somehow he got frustrated. His country frustrated him totally. And he went back overseas and from the US and never heard from him again. So I'm particularly delighted that this is still coming in my lifetime and I can contribute. I like the final part of the last presentation, so, which is to humanize the data. And I think that is where it all starts from and will end from, in terms of our reports, in terms of our analysis, how to humanize it. People will make money, they will trade, whether you're doing warehousing receipts or you're doing that. We're all going to make money, but at the end of the day, it's all about humans. The whole trade fights between the US and China and Mexico is still going to boil down to what people eat and drink, agriculture, subsidy, farm, implements, technology, innovation, what have you. But at the end of the day, it's all going to boil down to who has. The whole Venezuela thing is about oil, but then it's coming to what people eat. There's no food, people are going to revolt. Sudan, everywhere. So it's all about Ethiopia. Anywhere you turn around on the planet. So this is at the heart of it, and I really appreciate this. To start with, maybe I have a little request from AFEX. Perhaps to get us started, maybe you folks will do maybe just a one-pager report for us every day. And we will appreciate if that helps us to get us started as journalists. Like what you can say, this is the commodity market report for today. 4 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs, in simple way we can put it out in our news bulletins for radio, for TV, because we're all not here. And not everyone will have the opportunity. Again, once you start pushing it out, radio stations and other media organizations across country should also be part of this. Because again, we're talking about agriculture. So we're talking about the radio station in Benue, in Gombe, for example, where the farmers are, in Kebbi State, for example. So we talk about Kebbi State television. Or in Anambra, for example, or in Ondo State, where it's cocoa and what have you. So they also need, so you need local radio stations across country to also be part of this. So you need to find a way to see how they will be able to get these reports and also begin to let people know about it locally, and that will be another good way to make it spread like wildfire. The other point that I appreciate is the way the gentleman put it down. See, know, and treat. Then the fourth is just to publish. The challenge for us in the media had always been what I usually take from the late M.K. Wabiola's comment when he went on the ground and he was being looked for by the late Sani Abacha during the June 12th. And he was interviewed. I said, everybody's looking for you. The police are looking for you. They can't find you. You're such a big man. How could a big man like you, a billionaire, hide within Nigeria? A big man like you shouldn't be. I remember what he told the journalist. Said, if you know what you're looking for, you don't have to look far. So the first thing is to know what we're looking for. Oftentimes, we don't know what we're looking for. Or sometimes we're confused, or we're not specific about what we're looking for. So the first thing is to know what we're looking for. But a corollary to that is, why are we looking for it? So if you're looking for data, why are you looking for that data? So I asked myself, yes, I'm looking for this information. Why am I really looking for it? So first I have the end in front of me, then I work my way backwards. The second one is to, the second is to know. When you find it, do you know it? So search is not the same thing as research. So Google search is good, but I tell people, research is different from search. So you press the Google search, it searches for you, like the gentleman puts out, and it brings out an array of, okay, now you have to research what you see. And finally, you have to now treat what you see. When you've been able to pick one out of 1,000, then you now begin to treat it. So the end result is, for me, is always the treatment. How do you treat it? And I think that makes a lot of difference for men, women who wear gold and all of that. The way you do cooking. Every woman can go to the market and buy vegetable and onion and meat and fish and all of that. Whether it's sweet or not, is the treatment in the kitchen. And I think that is where we need to pay attention so we appreciate the tools and the training you're giving us today, or you're giving me today on how we go about this. I love that so much. Now, data-driven to data-backed storytelling. You well brought out something which has been an issue in Nigeria. So Nigerian journalists are not investigative enough and all of that. So, well, there's a difference when you say investigative. We want to get the story out, but whether it's data-driven or data-backed, one seems very easy to the other, because MBS has done the inflation data, has put it all that. So just look at it, write the story, and off it goes. But if you pick a police report, or you pick an FRSC report about number of accidents in Nigeria across states and across highways and all of that, and it comes like a logbook, kind of. Then, who has all the time to do that? My friend from business, they may have all the time to do that. But for Otto, maybe myself and a few others, for television, it becomes a bit more, because we need to be quick and fast to the camera. So sometimes we try to do is be data-driven or data-backed. If the stories there make it easy for me, then off I go. Currently, the stock exchange publishes a weekly report that is about, if you print it out, comes out about 7, 8, 9 pages sometimes. But the front page, it's most times where most of the story, everybody just take, once you take the front page, the rest go into the dustbin. So, but we're surprised if we go to page 6, 7, 8. Sometimes I tell those I work with, I say, look, did you look at page 6, 7, or 8? I said, but just the front. I said, look at 6, 7, that's where the real story is. So you just can look at 1 or 2 data and say that, yes, a bigger story than the cover page. So we also need to keep this in mind as journalists. I think those are the few things I want to say. But how to use what AFEX is coming up with to be the voice for those who are voiceless and the farmers. I think they would depend on us, and the government would depend on us, those of us who are members of the media, and the government officials will also depend on us. So we need to do justice, and very good justice, to what AFEX and other partners within the community will be giving us. It's a trust, and we need to be very careful with this data and inform appropriately. It's also very important that we represent those data very correctly. And integrity is also very, very important, so that at the end of the day, people will begin to look in from outside into what is happening at the commodities market. Now that the market is becoming formalized. We've been doing agricultural trading for long before our grandparents were born, so it's not new. But then this is now putting data into it, and face to it, and visualization and all of that. People can say, okay, instead of buying stocks, maybe I should just trade on AFEX and make money. I don't know how to trade yet. You can let me be the first to know after this. My dad left a big farm in Osun State. Maybe I'm still heading back there somehow. Some cocoa is still there, some palm trees are still there. Maybe I will just have to do something about it. Be an agri reporter rather than a stock market reporter. At the end of it all. Sorry, a commodities exchange reporter. Have I left anything out? I haven't. Thank you, everybody.